What do a white supremacist prison gang, a machete-wielding street syndicate, and an ancient Chinese secret society have in common? They control territory, they influence governments, and in some cases, they've killed more people than small armies. From the alleys of Palermo to the supermax prisons of Colorado and the favelas of Brazil, these gangs have gone from underground networks to global power players. This isn't just about crime. It's about survival, control, and what happens when systems collapse. Strap in. We're diving into the world's most dangerous gangs, how they formed, how they operate, and how they became near impossible to stop. The Aryan Brotherhood, USA. Only 1% of the US prison population. Yet, up to a quarter of all prison murders. That's not just influence, that's domination. These numbers aren't theoretical. Federal statistics and testimony from law enforcement consistently rank the Aryan Brotherhood among the deadliest organizations behind bars, often described as a death machine with a kill rate that defies its size. The Aryan Brotherhood, or AB, started as a response to desegregation policies in California prisons in 1964, particularly in San Quentin, but it didn't take long for it to become something far more terrifying. A white supremacist death cult masquerading as a prison gang. What began as a reactionary group for white inmates quickly evolved into a syndicate of violence, racial supremacy, and militant order. By the 1970s, it had infiltrated multiple correctional facilities across California, and soon, the entire US federal prison system. The federal and state factions operate separately, but often collaborate when interests align. Their structure is chilling in its efficiency. A 12-man council oversees major decisions, while a 3-man commission handles high-level operations. Founders like Barry Mills and T.D. Bingham envisioned an empire, not just of control, but of extermination. Members speak of worldwide domination aspirations, suggesting they want to evolve into a kind of neo-Nazi cartel. Unlike decentralized gangs, the AB operates like a paramilitary unit, where every order follows a chain of command, and treason is met with swift execution. AB's members undergo an initiation ritual that almost always involves murder, usually of a rival gang member. This isn't just to prove loyalty, it's a symbolic death of identity. You kill who you were to become who the Brotherhood wants you to be. Once you're in, you belong to the gang. Getting out is practically impossible. Their motto, blood in, blood out, isn't a metaphor. It's a death sentence. The group is extremely selective, valuing secrecy and discipline over numbers, which makes it more dangerous. You can spot an Aryan Brotherhood member by their tattoos. Isn't a metaphor. It's a death sentence. The group is extremely selective, valuing secrecy and discipline over numbers, which makes it more dangerous. You can spot an Aryan Brotherhood member by their tattoos. A 3-leaf shamrock, SS lightning bolts, a swastika, or the number 666. But what you can't see is the network. From inside prison walls, the AB orchestrates everything from meth distribution to murder-for-hire schemes. They've partnered with other white supremacist groups like the Nazi Lowriders and Aryan Circle. Strikingly, they sometimes forge short-term alliances with non-white gangs like the Mexican Mafia or Hell's Angels when mutual profits are at stake. These pragmatic deals reveal that for the AB, ideology can occasionally take a backseat to profit. Their ingenuity is terrifying. Inmates used urine as invisible ink, writing messages that only reveal under heat. This level of subterfuge shows just how far their influence extends, even behind bars. Messages have also been relayed through codes embedded in drawings or passed via corrupt prison staff. Law enforcement officers have intercepted elaborate communication systems, including microdots and encrypted artwork, proving that AB's logistical arm is as sharp as its blade. In 2002, the federal government made a sweeping move, charging 40 AB members with racketeering tied to 16 murders and numerous attempted assassinations. Some officials sought the death penalty, but many of the accused were already serving life sentences, effectively immune to further punishment. Despite being isolated in ADX Florence, America's most secure prison, Bingham and others are believed to still wield influence. FBI officials admit that cutting off communication entirely has proven nearly impossible. And while Barry Mills died in 2018 of natural causes, the Brotherhood remains a dominant and deadly force. TD Bingham is still alive, reportedly held under strict conditions at ADX. Yet experts suggest that as long as even one AB leader draws breath, the network will adapt. With alliances spanning prisons and streets, and a legacy built on unflinching violence, the Aryan Brotherhood isn't just surviving, it's evolving. MS-13, US Central America, and beyond. MS-13 isn't just a gang, it's a warning. Born in the 1980s on the streets of Los Angeles, MS-13 began as a defense group for Salvadoran refugees fleeing their country's brutal civil war. Many of these early members had been child soldiers or had experienced state-sponsored violence firsthand. But it didn't stay defensive for long. Fueled by trauma, poverty, and disenfranchisement, MS-13 evolved into a hyper-violent, decentralized empire, where violence wasn't just a tool, it became a language. The gang's name, Mara Salvatrucha, breaks down like this. Mara means gang, Salva for El Salvador, and Trucha translates roughly to streetwise or alert. The 13 links them to the Mexican Mafia, or La M, an affiliation that provides MS-13 both protection and power inside US prisons. Through this alliance, they gained not only respect, but also a foothold into larger narcotics trafficking operations. What's unique about MS-13 is its structure, or lack thereof. It has no central leader. Instead, it's made up of semi-autonomous cliques, known as clicas, each running their territory with ruthless independence. This makes it incredibly hard to dismantle. Arrest a leader, and another fills the vacuum. And because each clique adapts to its local environment, strategies vary wildly between countries and cities, making a unified law enforcement response nearly impossible. By 2025, MS-13 had a presence in almost every US state, with confirmed operations in Canada, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, Spain, and Italy. In the Northern Triangle alone, estimates put their numbers at over 70,000 members. In the US, estimates hover around 10,000 active members, with some officials suspecting that number is an undercount due to the gang's growing ability to recruit younger, less visible associates. Initiation into MS-13 is savage. Recruits are beaten for 13 seconds, a rite known as being jumped in. But more commonly, initiates are told to get wet, to commit murder for the gang. This act is meant not only to prove loyalty, but to desensitize. It's psychological warfare on the self. Tattoos, often sprawling across the face, chest, and arms, mark members forever. These designs are not random. They signify rank, allegiance, and even kill count. In recent years, some members have stopped tattooing themselves to avoid detection, reflecting the gang's evolving awareness of law enforcement tactics. MS-13 thrives in communities with weak policing and strong immigration fears. They exploit immigrants too afraid to go to authorities. In one case, a Salvadoran woman named Margarita had to place her son in a safe house after he was attacked for refusing to join. Reporting it risked her entire family's deportation. This manipulation of legal vulnerability has allowed MS-13 to expand its power in immigrant-heavy neighborhoods without much resistance. Their main business: extortion, but they also dabble in human trafficking, drug smuggling, and even weapons distribution. Often they operate with or alongside Mexican cartels, creating vast interlinked crime networks. In El Salvador and Honduras, MS-13 has even been known to control entire neighborhoods, imposing curfews and taxing local businesses. In some areas, they effectively function as a shadow government, and if you try to leave, good luck. Former members have testified that the gang tracks defectors across borders. One US-based former member was killed after fleeing to Virginia from Los Angeles. As one member said bluntly, "You could move anywhere you want. They'll find you." This global pursuit demonstrates their sophistication in information sharing, often through encrypted messaging apps and corrupt government connections. Their biggest threats are governments, especially in the US and El Salvador. The Sicat mega prison, built by the Bukele administration, now holds thousands of suspected gang members in grim conditions. Images of tattooed men crammed shoulder to shoulder in white boxers have made international headlines. But even inside, the gang's influence often persists through intimidation, encrypted messages, or coded gestures. In March 2025, ICE and the FBI arrested David Alejandro Orellana Aleman, one of MS-13's top leaders in the US. While symbolic, the bust didn't do much to slow the gang's momentum. Federal agents acknowledged that the arrest of high-profile leaders often results in power struggles, followed by waves of retaliatory violence. MS-13 isn't just a gang, it's an ideology of fear, built not just on brutality, but on legacy, loyalty, and the deep scars of displacement. The Triads, China and global. The Triads are among the world's oldest organized crime syndicates, born not from drugs or prisons, but revolution. In the 1700s, they were secret societies fighting to overthrow the ruling Qing dynasty in China. They even used the triangle symbol, hence triad, to represent the unity of heaven, earth, and man. Their earliest members were Shaolin monks and patriotic insurgents. Some historians argue their origins stretch even earlier, back to the anti-Mongol resistance of the 14th century. At their core, these were insurgent networks driven by idealism and nationalism. But centuries later, their mission evolved. No longer warriors of justice, triads became shadow kings of the underworld, orchestrating vast criminal operations across Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, and sprawling Chinese diaspora communities across North America, Europe, and beyond. Wherever Chinese communities settled, triad influence often followed, sometimes in the form of protection rackets, other times as fully fledged criminal syndicates. Unlike Western mobs, the Triads aren't a single entity. They're a loose network of syndicates, each with their own hierarchy. The two most feared, 14K and Sun Yian, their operations span from money laundering and drug trafficking to counterfeit goods, illegal gambling, cybercrime, and even human smuggling. These organizations act as criminal conglomerates, moving everything from endangered animal parts to pirated electronics, with annual profits estimated in the billions. In some regions, their influence blurs the boundary between organized crime and quasi-legitimate enterprise. Their internal structure is deeply ritualized. Members are bound not just by loyalty, but by ceremony. To be inducted, a recruit must sacrifice a chicken or pig at an altar dedicated to Guan Yu, the revered general of the Eastern Han Dynasty. They drink its blood mixed with wine, recite the 36 oaths, and pass under an arch of swords. These aren't just theatrics, they're psychological contracts. Guan Yu, known for his loyalty and martial virtue, serves as a spiritual role model for all members. According to ex-members, betrayal within a triad isn't just dishonor, it's a death warrant. Rules are strict. Obey your boss, never steal from the Brotherhood, and never take another's woman. Those who violate the code may be beaten, crippled, or executed. Punishments are ritualistic and symbolic, reinforcing a strict moral code within the organization. Some defectors claim that entire families have been targeted for a single betrayal, ensuring compliance through multi-generational fear. In the 1990s, some triads aligned themselves with pro-communist forces during the transition of Hong Kong's sovereignty from Britain to China. While officially criminal, these groups have occasionally served nationalist and state purposes, blurring the line between gang and political agent. There is documented evidence that Chinese officials have at times tolerated or even collaborated with triads to maintain social order or influence diaspora politics abroad. In return, some triad groups were allegedly granted more freedom to operate within certain territories. Today, the triads maintain a low profile. They've adapted to modern finance, investing in real estate, cryptocurrency, and stock fraud. They own shell companies, laundromats, casinos, and nightclubs that double as money-cleaning operations. In some cities, their activities are so discreet that locals don't even realize they're living amidst organized crime. But their heart remains in the shadows, where honor, blood, and silence are currency. Law enforcement agencies across the globe continue to struggle with infiltrating triad operations. Their use of ancient codes, family bonds, and cultural rituals makes them impermeable to traditional intelligence strategies. But as digital crime grows, triads are expanding into cyber extortion, ransomware attacks, and cryptocurrency theft. In many ways, the triads have moved from blades to bandwidth, an evolution as lethal as it is lucrative. Cosa Nostra, Italy. They made crime look cinematic. But the real Cosa Nostra is no screenplay. It's a multi-generational reign of blood, corruption, and fear. Formed in 19th century Sicily, the Sicilian Mafia was originally a response to colonial rule and government absence. Locals paid for protection, which quickly became extortion. The Mafia filled a vacuum left by the state's weakness, assuming the role of arbitrator, enforcer, and tax collector in many Sicilian communities. They offered order in a lawless land, but that order came at a price. Over time, Mafia clans evolved into autonomous militarized families, enforcing their own version of justice, retribution, and hierarchy. Each family ruled its territory with a strict chain of command, and inter-family conflicts were resolved through blood or secret arbitration. The Mafia became a parallel state, one that governed through fear and forged alliances through blood pacts rather than ballots. The name Cosa Nostra, our thing, speaks volumes. It's not just about secrecy, it's about belonging. To be in the Mafia is to be part of a sovereign identity, a nation within a nation. From their stronghold in Palermo, they expanded their reach through contract killings, political bribes, heroin trafficking, and cross-border money laundering. By the 1950s and 60s, they had become key intermediaries in the international heroin trade, facilitating the infamous French connection that flooded the US with narcotics. In the 20th century, the Sicilian Mafia clashed with fascist leader Benito Mussolini, who launched a crackdown known as the Iron Prefect campaign. Hundreds were jailed. But post-World War II, they returned stronger, dominating construction contracts, manipulating land deals, and infiltrating local governments to rebuild war-torn cities on their terms. They brokered deals with politicians, businesses, and even foreign intelligence agencies during the Cold War era. Their violence was brutal and theatrical. One infamous event? The 1992 assassination of Judge Giovanni Falcone, a key anti-mafia figure whose car was blown up with enough explosives to leave a 100-meter-wide crater. His wife and bodyguards were also killed. This marked a turning point in Italy's anti-mafia crusade, triggering mass arrests and the eventual formation of specialized anti-mafia units. The Corleonese clan, named after the real town of Corleone, led one of the bloodiest periods in mafia history. Between 1981 and 1983, they launched an internal war, killing over 1,000 people, including rival bosses, their families, judges, and civilians. Led by Salvatore Toto Riina and later Bernardo Provenzano, the Corleonesi dismantled rival factions and installed a reign of terror. Torture, dismemberment, and public assassinations were part of their arsenal. They even kidnapped and killed the young son of a state witness to silence his father. Many confuse the Sicilian mafia with the American mafia, but they're not the same. As former enforcer Gene Borello clarified, US mobsters don't answer to Sicilian clans. While they may share cultural traditions, bloodlines, and codes of silence, their operations are independent. The Sicilian mafia is older, more entrenched in politics, and more overtly involved in transnational crime. Today, Cosa Nostra is still active, just quieter. Tax scams, real estate fraud, and business extortion have replaced the high-profile massacres. The penalties are lighter, and the profits just as rich. They've embraced the tools of white-collar crime, shell corporations, tax havens, and offshore accounts. Their influence persists in port logistics, agriculture, and waste management contracts across Italy. But the old code remains. Omertà, the vow of silence, is sacred. Breaking it isn't betrayal, it's a death sentence. Informants, called pentiti, have helped law enforcement crack the mafia's core, but they live under constant threat. Even in witness protection, many are hunted down. Cosa Nostra plays a long game. They don't forget. They don't forgive. Despite ongoing efforts to dismantle their networks, the Sicilian mafia continues to evolve. They've shifted focus from overt violence to strategic corruption. Political candidates have been secretly bankrolled, construction projects ghost-run, and in regions like Calabria and Campania, they often work alongside or compete with other syndicates like the 'Ndrangheta and Camorra. Cosa Nostra isn't just history. It's still a system, hidden in plain sight, and its survival proves that even in a modern world, old powers never truly vanish. They just get better at hiding. PCC, Primeiro Comando de Capital, Brazil. Most gangs start with power. This one started with grief. After the Carandiru prison massacre in São Paulo in 1992, where over 100 inmates were gunned down by police during a riot, outrage rippled through Brazil's prison system. A year later, 8 inmates formed the Primeiro Comando da Capital, or PCC, as a response. Their manifesto called for dignity, unity, and better conditions. But soon, their message evolved. Their goal was simple: justice. But justice turned into domination. What began as a retaliatory collective morphed into a criminal empire. The PCC quickly started recruiting across São Paulo's penitentiaries, operating with a discipline more typical of insurgent groups than street gangs. Their growth was rapid, stealthy, and strategic. By 1999, the PCC had become Brazil's most sophisticated criminal network, pulling off the city's biggest bank heist and stealing $32 million. 6 years later, they doubled it in Ceará, making off with $65 million. These weren't just robberies, they were declarations of power. They also showcased the PCC's meticulous planning. In one case, they dug a tunnel under a bank vault, using construction equipment and months of silent labor, all without tipping off authorities. In 2006, the government tried to split up PCC leaders across different prisons. That backfired spectacularly. Within days, the gang launched a coordinated uprising, 100 attacks on police stations, riots in 51 prisons, and 240 guards taken hostage. 43 officers and hundreds of civilians died in the crossfire. It was one of the largest gang-led rebellions in modern history. The incident made it clear, the PCC wasn't just a gang, it was a paramilitary force with logistical command. Today, the PCC boasts over 100,000 members, stretching across Brazil, Bolivia, Paraguay, and Colombia. They control cocaine routes from Andean producers to Brazilian ports, with deep ties to international cartels. In the favelas, they enforce their own laws, levying taxes, controlling drugs, and acting as a shadow government. Residents often depend on the PCC more than the police for stability. Disputes are settled in tribunais do crime, or gang courts. Their command center is a group of 8 known as the Sintonia Geral Final, the secretive top tier that orchestrates regional operations like a cartel boardroom. Beneath them are layers of leadership with defined roles: logistics, finance, legal counsel, and internal discipline. This hierarchy has allowed them to expand without fracturing. Unlike many rival gangs, these gangs weren't born in back alleys. They were forged in war, trauma, and injustice. And where systems failed, these groups thrived, offering identity, power, and profit. Some run prisons, others run entire economies, and all of them prove one terrifying truth: if institutions collapse, crime takes their place. Want more stories from the hidden corners of the globe? Then join us again, right here on Around the World.